Teikoku Gakuen, aka Royal Academy, a team that stood at the pinnacle of the football frontier for 4 whole decades, both regionally and nationally as the undisputed kings. They're also the first antagonist team we're introduced to in the series and very quickly demonstrate how vast the gap in power is between them and our protagonist team of Ryelle. However, as the story progressed and time went on, they fell the fuck off.
Oh, I'm hurt!
In terms of the anime, Royal Academy were definitely going through it. They were denied their chance to claim their usual spot as the greatest team in Tokyo, and not too long after, also denied their usual spot as the best in Japan as well. Firstly by Ryelle, a team they absolutely decimated and destroyed in the first few episodes. But then, this team went to go on to go toe-to-toe and band for band with them during the regional finals, and eventually beat them. Secondly, by Zeus, which were a borderline invincible team that consisted of a bunch of kids that were juiced the fuck up on performance enhancing drugs. And Teikoku got blown the fuck out 10-0 after literally just like a couple minutes on the field. And as a result, they got that Ryelle Season 2 treatment.
Take this shit no more, man!
So yeah, back-to-back losses is pretty solid evidence for them falling off. And it's not only that they're back-to-back losses, they're back-to-back denials to claim their title back. The thing that's crazy is, I don't think they'd ever be able to reclaim their title as best in Tokyo or even best in the nation, since post-FFI Royal Academy is pretty much just the original team plus Caleb. I'd love to assume the Redux members joined the squad, but there's no real evidence of that. Now compare that team to Sunshine Academy with all those strong players, Zeus with a world-class Aphrodite and much stronger strikers. And even Ryelle, which is now full to the brim with phenomenal players. The only players I see keeping up are Genda, Sakuma and Fudo, possibly Narukami and Jimon due to the whole national thing, but I don't really think the rest of the team has it in them. But then again, you never know what could happen. Now let's take it a few steps back to Season 2. Let's be 106% real. Royal Academy would have got blown to bits frame 1 if Kirkwood got donkey fucked 86-0, then I don't even want to think what would have happened to Royal Academy. Ryelle could barely keep up, and for Royal Academy to keep up with Ryelle, who was barely keeping up themselves, well, not even just Royal Academy as a whole, just their 2 strongest, because the rest, let's be real, they're kind of cheats in comparison. But their 2 strongest players needed to use forbidden techniques as well as some of the Alias Crystal to catch up. And they didn't even win! No, dragging Royal Academy aside, there are reasons as to why they feel as if they've fallen off. Firstly, power creep. This is something we've gone over in a previous video, but that was in terms of gameplay. This time we're going over it in terms of storytelling. I'm not sure if power creep is the 100% right word / phrase to use for this, since it's not as egregious as other franchises like Dragon Ball, but it's the most accurate term to describe what Royal Academy has gone through. Each strong team has very similar tools in their toolkit. Crackhead physical abilities, special moves, tactics, etc. But regardless of how versatile the concept of Inazuma 11 is, and how versatile the sport of football is, with stories like this, I get why power creep becomes an issue for some teams and characters, since pretty much every team can use Hisatsu to pull off some superhuman, supernatural bullshit. So for the next antagonist team to be even remotely threatening, they need to have a more menacing theme for the team, stronger Hisatsu, and this Hisatsu needs to be more of a spectacle as well. That's not necessary, but it's usually what needs to happen. And that team needs to have an even greater gap in power between them and our protagonist team, but not only that, they need a massive gap in power and skill from the previous protagonist team they're taking over from. For example, Royal Academy's theme is pretty much to be the best, to be the pinnacle, similar to how royalty works in society. However, Ryelle beat them and surpassed them. So what's next? What's more imposing and more menacing than the pinnacle, than the royalty of the sport? Gods. Greek gods to be precise. God stands above all of royalty, and Greek gods have this air of majesty and glory to them. So obviously this is a more threatening and intimidating theme for a team than Royal Academy. And as we mentioned before, Royal Academy got blown the fuck out by this team about 10-0 in a couple of minutes. And this is pretty much going to be the cycle. After Zeus lost to Raimon, a stronger team came into the mix and had the country in shambles. Then a stronger team after that, and so on and so on. And Royal Academy is right at the bottom of this totem of teams that are absolute titans. Something else I want to point out is that OG Inazuma 11 as an anime, game and manga is a lengthy experience, and Royal Academy's prominence and dominance took place right at the beginning. They're a product of the time that they were introduced, and they fulfilled their role extremely well. However, new mechanics and levels of power were added constantly afterwards, and due to preceding all of this, they look weak in comparison, despite not actually being weak. And also, the story isn't perfect, there's a shitload of inconsistencies, so maybe Royal Academy could possibly take on teams we consider far above their level. As much evidence as there is for Royal Academy falling off, there's also evidence to support them not falling off. For starters, Royal Academy had 5 representatives deemed world class, and it's actually 7 if you include Royal Academy Redux. These were Sanford, Jude and Caleb for Inazuma Japan, and Genda, Arjibaji, Narukami and Jimon for Neo Japan. I have no clue if I should include Bobby being a world class American defender since he was originally Royal Academy, but since I mentioned Neo Japan I might as well mention him too. Being deemed world class is no easy feat. If it was, then we'd be seeing those monkeys from Otaku Junior High taking up a lot of valuable slots in the national team. It would be pretty funny, but not very logical or smart. So there is a serious amount of weight behind those players being deemed world class. On the topic of world class, Teikoku Go absolutely washed Earth 11, 10-1, a team deemed world class. And I know what I just said about being deemed world class something with weight to it, and the Earth 11 being useless fucks initially goes somewhat against that. But they're world class in their own rights, I guess. Ibuki was a world class basketballer, Tetsugato held the world title in boxing, and then like Manabe was like the best at computation in the entire country. But there were also like characters that weren't really at the pinnacle of a sport, like Kusaka. But he was a fucking mob boss basically. In the anime he was running like a shitload of gangs and like at the pinnacle of that. And then there's Konoha, but you've seen her game stats, that's just fucking terrifying. The glazing of Earth 11 aside, I think this is an okay point to prove that Royal Academy hadn't fallen off. They just pulled up, showed up, blew the team out and left. But who chose those players? Kageyama Reiji. Next point. As he stated himself, Kageyama Reiji does not lose. He will never experience defeat in his life. If that's true, then why did he run it back and make a new Royal Academy? Exactly. Like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye.